Coming up on Tech News today, we are live from South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. We got Baratunde on the show. We got Brushwood on the show. John, Strickland, Sarah Lane. We're going to talk about South by Southwest, also the great Engadget exodus, what Twitter's doing to their developers, and is Google trying another social network? All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Sunday, March 13th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by FreshBooks. FreshBooks, the easy online invoicing service that gets you paid quickly and makes you look professional. Get started with a free package at FreshBooks.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
And I'm Sarah Lane.
And we are live at South by Southwest Interactive in Austin, Texas. Hello,
everybody. Good crowd.
Yes.
I see some familiar faces out there, too.
All the way as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
I can't see very
the
far.
horizon, even.
Black people.
Yeah. So thanks, everybody, for coming out to see us here. We're live at Momo's, 6th and Rio Grande in Austin, Texas.
It's a great little spot.
It is, man. That's fantastic. Big hand for the Momo's folks.
Thanks, Momo's folks, for hosting us. You guys rock.
And a big hand to LiveView for providing the bandwidth that we're streaming along here. We've got the new LiveView HD unit as well. LiveView, the LU60, released in January 2011, actually has the WiMAX bonded in, along with the other 3G cards, so you get as much as you can possibly out of it. And we have a great panel joining me and Sarah today. Jason Howell is here. He's back behind the curtain.
Like a dirty secret.
But Brian Brushwood, host of NSFW show, Frame Rate, and Scam School in Revision 3.
Howdy,
the first
how's it
two
going, guys?
Good,
Yeah,
Brian. How's it going? How was your show last night?
Oh, dude, it's fantastic. For a show that was consisting of fully one half of it being stuff that were harebrained schemes we had the night before, everything went off fantastically. It was amazing.
Well, I hope this show follows in that footsteps.
Of being a bunch of harebrained schemes.
John Strickland from Tech Stuff Podcast. Good to have you back on the show.
Howdy.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How's your South by Southwest going so far?
It's great. I'm on vacation. I'm not officially here, so I've just been going to all the parties.
Our unnamed host company
yes.
doesn't know he's here. We'll just call him John.
It's fantastic because it's the opposite of CES. At CES, I go to all the stuff in the day, and then I never have anything left for the parties, and here I've been doing the opposite. I've been going to all the parties and sleeping all day. It's
So what
great.
you're saying is you're getting the dregs of Jonathan Strickland right now.
Yeah, you might be able to hear that.
Can you hear the dregs? And of course, joining us, as I do quite often at South by Southwest, apparently, because last time I had you on the show was on Buzz Out Loud at South by Southwest.
I just follow you.
Baratunde Thurston, comedian and digital editor.
Director of Digital.
Director of Digital. I knew I'd screw it up. I should have written it down. At The Onion. Welcome, man. It's good to have you on the show.
Good to be back.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Good
much
panel.
for having me. Hey, everybody. Hey, fellow panelists. Let's get our panel on.
It is, and then there is Tech News Today, oddly enough. Big news broke yesterday. Actually, we were on the live stream walking around when people started talking about it. Joshua Topolsky, editor-in-chief of Engadget, is leaving AOL's Engadget. Also, Nilay Patel. We've had him on the show a bunch of times. Love Nilay. He is leaving Engadget as well. They joined the Millers, Chris and Paul, not related, by the way, who have both left Engadget previously. And it's kind of bad news for AOL. I don't think it's bad news for Engadget necessarily. They got a good, strong staff. I think they'll continue just fine. But it's really, it's really bad news for AOL to see a lot of top names like that leave.
Yeah.
Is that a case? Is there something about the AOL corporate culture that's
The
causing
AOL way?
Is there an exodus from AOL?
Yeah.
Well, the AOL way, of course, was that it was kind of a leaked strategy document of sorts that upset some folks who had been, I guess, grandfathered into
kind of
the
it
AOL
seemed to
umbrella.
value selling ads over content.
Right.
Right.
It's not that you got to do both.
Right.
But
Like heavily weighted toward the money.
I mean, nobody who works in editorial wants to think that the brand is simply business, although, of course, that's a big element of it. But I guess it got to a tipping point that upset some folks. I mean, Paul Miller was very vocal about he was leaving because he did not agree with the AOL strategy.
Now, Josh
explicitly.
Topolsky is leaving in a very different manner. He is going to remain as an editor at large, the way Ryan Block did when Ryan left Engadget. He's still considered sort of an emeritus member of Engadget. So
Is that what editor-at-large means?
I think you should do
What
what
is
you
that
want on
title?
no schedule.
it kind of means whatever you want it to
Yeah,
mean. It means
okay.
we really don't know what to do with this person, so we'll give
He's
him that
at
title.
large.
Plus, you keep the business cards,
Yeah,
which is nice.
And he's apparently going to continue to host the Engadget show, the big television show they do in New York.
So is this more about him making space in his schedule to do other cool things than leaving AOL?
Yeah, no, John, you don't.
I
think
think this is another example of culture shock that you get when companies merge together or one
Now,
company.
you
is
wouldn't have
acquired by
any
another.
experience that you could talk about
Let's
related
not-
to this kind of
Let's
thing.
not bring me into this.
Okay, all right.
I worked for 7 years with a human resources consulting firm before I got into writing about tech, and we specifically would help companies try to merge cultures together, and that's a really tricky situation. You can sometimes have two companies that you think are actually really similar. This is not necessarily one of those cases, but even with two similar companies, you're going to have a lot of culture shock, and there's some people who just cannot make that that move to adapt to the new culture, and it's tough. I mean, even I've never seen a completely smooth transition either from one side where I'm in a company that's being acquired or is merging with another, or as working with the consultants. It's just I've never seen it happen. So this sort of thing I expect to see whenever you get a content provider being acquired by a larger corporation.
This would be the first time large business has ever had any problems in this country, though. So that's kind of
it's a
shocking.
watershed
It's
moment. in
we
economic
should document
history.
this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Closely.
apparently also this doesn't have anything to do with AOL acquiring Huffington Post, but at the same time, it is, I mean, things are getting shaken up in the technology side of AOL. So, it remains to be seen. Supposedly Engadget and TechCrunch, which AOL also owns, none of their editorial staff was going to be touched, and this doesn't appear to be. This is just.
It's not part of the layoff.
Yeah, this is just coincidental timing, but. It'll be interesting to see how things shake up the next few months.
Now,
Did you read actually?
I was going to say, Topolsky it seems to be leaving on very good terms. They allowed him to write a goodbye post on Engadget that was almost tear-jerking.
Did you read the thing?
Beautiful.
I
It's
don't
kinda
know if it's,
poetic.
I don't know if it's
Tear-jerking
indicative.
poetry.
I don't know if it's indicative of the way he writes, but if I may, I'd like to give a dramatic reading of just the last paragraph.
You're holding two iDevices to
Of
read
course
this
I am,
one
but that's
article.
that's how impressive this writing is. It requires this. Here we go. This is just the last paragraph. And I don't know if this is how he always writes, but this is how it comes across. Hold on, here we go. And with that, I'm shuffling over towards the door. Just underneath that dim exit sign that keeps blinking on and off. It's fluorescent bulbs cracking with some kind of syncopated rhythm all their own. It's just started to rain a little bit outside. But I've got my coat and umbrella. I'll be fine. And so will you.
Don't go, Joshua.
Till we meet again.
Don't go.
And then the thunder and the lightning. That was
But the
beautiful.
thing is like he's still hosting the Engadget podcast, which, by the way, is
not dead.
it's a lot of fun.
And he says, I'm going to continue to do
So it's like
to work in the tech news space. So he's obviously got an idea of where he's going with this.
Right.
And he's taking Neeli with him.
Yeah. Exodus. Movement of
And
the people.
great Engadget exodus. All right, let's move on to the next story. Judge Teresa Buchanan in the Eastern District of Virginia has ruled that the government must give over all the information they asked for from Twitter. This is regarding the WikiLeaks case. The government was seeking full contact details for the accounts, IP addresses used to access the accounts, connection records, and data transfer information for several people, including an Icelandic member of parliament, Birgitta Jónsdóttir, Julian Assange, you might have heard of him, Bradley Manning, who is suspected of leaking classified information to WikiLeaks, U.S. Representative Jacob Appelbaum, and Dutch businessman and activist Ron Gongrip. Essentially, they don't want the content of the posts, which is why the judge allowed it. They said they're not seeking the content. The subjects did not have standing to challenge the government's request for the records because they had no expectation of privacy when they were giving that information to Twitter.
Now, when we were talking about this before, I forget who it was that made it was probably you, Tom, that made the comparison. It's like, we don't want to know what's in this UPS package. We just want to know the length, the width, the height,
That was
the
John.
weight. John, it was brilliant when
He
you
is
said
very
that.
upset at not getting credited.
No, it was fantastic. It was a brilliant. It was like if you know everything about it except for what's in the package, what's
Right.
the point? How
Yeah.
is that any different?
Yeah.
No, it is exactly the same sort of thing. You know, you're talking about, well, I know how much the package weighs, I know what kind of envelope it is, I know what the address is, I know exactly how much you paid to ship it, but I have no idea what's inside it. So therefore, it's okay for me to have all the information.
Yeah. You can reconstruct the whole world around the package.
It's essentially saying I would
Essentially
like
by
I
knowing
would like
what's
the
not in the
packing
package.
slip,
Yeah.
but I don't need a search. I don't want to have to get a search warrant.
Well, and that's of course the rub is the question is not whether or not they're entitled to the information. They can ask for anything they want as long as they get a warrant. The question is whether or not they can do it without even bothering to get a warrant.
Right.
And I don't see how that's okay.
All right, Twitter also telling third-party devs to go take a flying leap on the developers' mailing list. That might be a little harsh. Ryan Sarver of Twitter's platform team said the developers should no longer attempt to build conventional Twitter client applications. And he says 90% of Twitter's audience is not using a third-party client anymore. So stop making those clients. The TweetDecks, the Seismics of the world, they can continue
They're
to develop
grandfathered
their software, but
Right.
we're not going to allow any more. And they've actually changed the API terms to be much more strict. The intention is to block developers from presenting their own trending topics or follow recommendations in Twitter client applications.
So here's one. I just realized what Topolsky's probably going to do is start a tech blog just with the vowels of Engadget to do the flip side of nice.
Yeah, no,
nice. Your mind. I love being on the show with Brushwood. Thank you so much for that.
I'm the one who thought it was funny. Thank you.
GDGT is anyway. But back to the Twitter story. This is a money play, right? Because they're now selling promoted trends. They're selling recommended accounts and promoted accounts. So they don't want another client with a huge user base pushing its own recommended accounts that conflict or certainly don't support what Twitter's already sold to a paying advertiser. So that's probably a big part of it. Plus a consistent user experience, as they said. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you know, when Twitter first launched, the biggest story about Twitter, as far as we could see, besides the fact that people were starting to really adopt it, was how is it going to sustain itself? The question asked over and over again is, when is Twitter going to get a real business model? Mm-hmm. And then once Twitter starts to form a business model, it has to find a way to defend it so that it can continue to actually generate revenue and not depend upon investment after investment to stay afloat. I mean, we all recognize how important Twitter is. And I think that's the thing, is that Twitter recognizes it too, and so they're taking some pretty drastic steps to ensure that. And you could argue that maybe their approach is not necessarily the best approach to do that. And I mean that's a valid argument, I think. But I do see their need to make that sort of defense.
Here's one other. Can I feel the mic real quick? So we actually bought promoted trends through The Onion on Twitter, and one of the limitations was that they didn't work in all clients.
Oh,
so if you're buying something for Twitter, you want it to work on Twitter. And you don't want it to work on just Twitter.com or Twitter clients, not on Seismic and not on TweetDeck. So there is the concern of the purchaser as well as the end user. Like, that user experience really applies to the buyer experience as well. If you can't guarantee you're going to get in front of everybody using Twitter, then do you have to start discounting the rate because it didn't reach 100% of the user base? It's a weird,
well, I don't think
question.
anybody's questioning Twitter's ability
Yeah.
or right to make those changes to
Yeah.
the agreement. The big question is this going to have a chilling effect on the development of new Twitter products using the API? You got to admit that Twitter was built on the backs of hardworking entrepreneurs who decided to create all these wildly different clients, all these wildly different applications. And I'll tell you, when we read this story, sitting right next to me, Patrick Delahanty is the guy who's doing the guts of the Afterlife Me project that we're working on. And his concern was like, did I just waste the last 3 months of my life? What's going on here?
Well, I mean, you just said something really important. That's wildly different Twitter experiences. I mean, Twitter has lost control of what your Twitter experience is versus mine, and they want us to have the same experience, or, you know, very close together. I mean, @replies, DMs, retweeting, that was all something that kind of happened organically in the Twitter experience.
Yeah, we forget that @replies were not built into Twitter from the
No.
beginning.
Yeah.
That was a
I
user
invented that,
innovation.
And there-
Baratunde
you know,
invented that.
And you're welcome, America.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the world.
You actually spelled Baratunde with an app.
That's, I mean, I kind of started that part. Yeah.
You know, retweeting, Twitter has, remember when they rolled out the new retweet? Well, a lot of clients still let you retweet the old way.
Right.
Twitter doesn't like that, and it is messy. I mean, yes, it's good to have for users to have choices, but the end result is something that Twitter looks at and is like, you know what, it's too many versions of this, we have to regain control. And that also applies to, they have a lot of employees now, they need to pay their people, they need to have a sustainable business model. It sounds like people are bristly because Twitter's not being, I don't know,
Well, they
real
changed
warm and
the
fuzzy about
the
it.
terms of the deal. Pray they don't alter it further.
That's what I'm getting at.
yeah.
Is that for a company that derives so much benefit from people coming up with all these wild ideas, if they know that out there they have a history now of Twitter just pulling the rug out from underneath you, that makes it to where it's like, well, do I really want to invest all this time knowing that Twitter has a history of changing all the rules just like that?
I mean, they encourage the development, and then once it's gone a certain amount of way, they've drawn a line in the sand, which is this is now core, this is us. And so the open question that we were talking about ahead of time was, does that line keep moving?
Yeah. And what's my incentive to keep developing
will
if I'm
enhancements
worried
on top of Twitter be prohibited later down the line when they consider that core to their business and something they then want to sell?
What I'm hoping it is that they follow the model of essentially what happened with Apple, where it's like the App Store, go nuts, do whatever you want. Just don't duplicate functionality that we already have in this device. And if that's all it is, if it's a case like, hey, don't touch our golden goose of the Twitter page, of the Twitter client, then you will still have that creativity and that momentum to keep making new products.
Until Twitter starts selling it and then changes the terms 2 years later.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan
But
Zarber
maybe you
said
made your money by then.
that's true.
developers, if they want to know if they should build client apps that mimic or reproduce the mainstream Twitter consumer client experience, the answer is no. I mean, clear as day.
All right. In addition to thanking Momo's for hosting us, thanking LiveView for helping bring the bandwidth, we got to thank our sponsor FreshBooks for their support of TNT. If you're a small business owner or a freelancer, you should know about FreshBooks. It's an online invoicing service that stops the headaches of having to make an invoice. Brian and I were talking about this the other day about, you make an invoice yourself in Word, and it looks like, your kindergartner made it, and then you're sending it off to this company.
It doesn't start off looking that way. It's when
I don't
you try
mean to
to do
insult
it
your
again.
kindergartner.
No. It's when you try to change it for someone and you forget to change the address on there or the phone number or the date or whatever. You just look like a chump.
With FreshBooks, you get professional-looking invoices. You can use your own logo. They're customized. All the information is tracked. They play the heavy. They go and do the collecting for you. If you're any kind of freelancer, you have to do any kind of billing, I recommend you try it out. They'll even, for a little extra charge, mail the invoices the old-fashioned way by giving them to a man on a pony.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where do you get ponies nowadays?
I don't know.
Can you make them
At
only
the
delivered by
store.
pony?
I know a
They have a
guy.
special
I'm not sure if it's
Totally beat me
customizable
to that
at that
joke.
level or not.
Because if I ran that kind of business, I would deliver all invoices via pony.
I'll have to ask them about that.
Yeah.
But if you try out FreshBooks for free today, you get 3 clients absolutely free. You can set up an account, and all through March, they are giving away cakes.
Cake! Free
Yeah.
cake!
Yeah, a cake.
Like regular cake,
a
not
cake
cupcake.
a day.
It's a birthday cake.
It's a birthday cake, but it doesn't have to be your birthday. That's the best part. It's your unbirthday cake, just for joining FreshBooks.
Unbirthday sounds like a weird thing.
They're drawing a name, one a day.
It means you become 1 year younger
cake.
the moment you eat it. It's amazing.
Youth cake.
I will take
I mean,
10
that's
of
just
those
great.
cakes.
You can
Thanks,
only win
FreshBooks.
one a day. And I
Okay.
think once you win one, you're done. You have to let other people win, John. Sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, freshbooks.com, we thank them for their support of Tech News today. On to Google Circles. Not, as Baratunde was wondering in the prep meeting, Google having a proprietary shape.
That's
But
what I thought.
Yeah.
It's not beyond the realm of possibility. Google reintroduces the circle
Yeah, we've
in a
changed
whole
it.
new way you've
It's-
never known
That would be
before.
Apple. It's revolutionary. You're going to love this circle. No, Google Circles is a sharing system that's reputed to be under development. They have things. They do refer to social circles a lot. There was a rumor that today. At South by Southwest, they were going to demonstrate the new Google Circles. Google told Liz Gaines at All Things D, absolutely not. We are not going to do any sort of thing. And they were very careful to deny it in a way that didn't confirm that Google Circles existed either. But it's pretty intriguing that there would be another thing on top of Google Buzz and the profile pages that Google would be getting into. Is this total hubris? Is this silliness that Google is trying all these things? Or is this the brilliance of it, knowing, hey, you don't take on Facebook head-to-head. You eat away at them a little by little where you already have the audience in search.
Well, I think Google Buzz, we can all agree, was not. It kind
Good?
of. Well, I actually don't have a problem with Google Buzz. I just don't think that it caught on in the way that Google would have liked.
You mean positive?
at all.
I'm trying to be positive about this.
Okay, I still
don't
use
like
Google Buzz.
Buzz sucks.
Do you really? What do you use Google
some
Buzz
people
for?
do.
I have
You're the guy.
have friends.
You're the guy.
I have friends who refuse to use Twitter, and so they use Google Buzz, and I will log on Google Buzz to see what's going on with them.
Are
Some
those
people
friends
do.
working
There's-
at Google?
there's
No,
certainly
actually,
users
it's
of Google
funny.
Buzz.
They actually work at Twitter. It's weird.
Yeah, it is kind of odd.
They're Twitter developers.
the idea of sharing with only the most appropriate people kind of reminds me of what Path is doing, where they limit your friends.
That's the rumor about Google Circles, right?
Yeah, is that it's not like Twitter where you're just blasting out to the world and people follow you. It's I choose very specifically 50 people in this room, and then I can share more intimate moments, or my new baby. I don't have a baby, by the way. There's no baby.
That was just an example.
But it's a different way of thinking where you're not. It's not shoving out into the world, which a lot of people have accused Google Buzz of being. It's just a bunch of nonsense, and no one's really having a discussion. And if you limit the folks that you're sharing with, you have more organic discussions.
And it's very possible that Google Circles is another one of those 20% time things where, which is where you start to see these conflicts where you'll see, well, that sounds kind of like Google Buzz, but it sounds kind of like, this, that, or the other. And a lot of that is because Google gives its employees this freedom, this 20% freedom, so that they can develop other projects, and sometimes these projects turn into things, and sometimes they don't.
And they just have so many resources. They can keep launching things. They have a lot of torpedoes of various shapes and sizes, and why not? I mean, social's got clearly very important, and they're not strong in it, and they want to survive in the future and thrive, so let's just launch a new thing.
Watching Google try to break into the social media space and become a dominant force there really reminds me that we got to remember Google is no longer the young upstart, it is the empire, and when something goes wrong, it just builds another Death Star. This one's slightly different, and if you build up Death Stars, you're sooner or later going to blow up Alderaan.
And it's fully operational.
So true. It's a well-known business school maxim, actually.
When all else fails,
make
blow up
the
Alderaan.
exhaust port smaller next time.
I learned something today.
All right, South by Southwest is going on in Austin,
is
Texas. Do any of you out there know that?
Hey now.
Southwest. What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's a music festival. It happens later next week.
Just stay in town. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's a bummer. Sounds fun.
This is the year it's gotten huge.
We said that last year,
Last year,
right?
I felt like we said, this is the year it's gotten huge.
Well, this is the
this year,
but then the year
I think it really got huge.
This is
I'm
the
pretty
year
sure we said that last year.
This is the year
3
that I
years ago,
came
I was
here.
saying this is the year it's getting huge, and this is really the year.
All right.
I think this is the year it got huge because I walked past a CNN live truck yesterday, and I was like, okay.
Parked in front of a restaurant that had been turned into a CNN restaurant.
Yeah, see, this
I
South
don't
by
remember
so
what it
over.
used to be, but it wasn't that last year.
No.
Yeah, they just put that sign up at about 2 a.m. on Friday morning. I saw them doing it under the dead of night. It was a little shady.
The level of commitment, I mean, this is a totally new thing as far as I'm able to see. The pop-up Apple Store, the pop-up CNN Cafe Grill. I mean, this is amazing that they're actually making
You can't
South by
walk 2
Southwest.
feet without your foot getting run over by a food truck sponsored by some
food
.com
trucks are
social
a new
network.
thing.
Or an Uber pedicab.
What I want is a CNN food truck.
Really, at this point, if you're
Sponsored by
paying for
Apple.
food in Austin, you're a sucker.
You're doing it wrong. You are not winning.
Not winning.
Not winning.
Yeah, well, and do we think... I've been comparing it to like almost getting Comic-Con levels because the show has definitely moved out of the convention center. I mean, it's still there, but they take over the entire convention center instead of sharing it with the wedding show like they used to, years back.
I
And-
would not compare it to Comic-Con just because Comic-Con is still very much top-down. It's from the producers of the content deciding how everything will be created. This is still very much, it's very amorphous. It's much more Dragon Con. Everybody's deciding their own level of involvement. I mean, you're still walking down the street getting random chipmunks throwing acorns at your face.
And then they won't tell
that
you
is
why.
the record.
tell you what the
That only
product
happened
is.
to
What was
you?
that all about?
I'm having a much
Because they
different
hired that guy who
Yeah, I don't know. You
doesn't
have a
actually
weird
know
South
what the
by.
product is.
Yeah, that's a true story. Brian and I had people dressed as chipmunks throwing nuts at us and then yelling a URL.
Oh,
but they wouldn't-
squirrel.
Yeah.
It's
squirrels.
like an Instapaper for video.
Oh, thank you. That's all
see,
they needed
oh,
to
squirrel.
say. Was that so hard for a squirrel?
Apparently, I'm now vice president of marketing.
Well, I think
for
they were
Squirrel.
telling you. You were just confused. It's interesting, though. You mentioned the
Don't speak
conference
squirrel.
getting more spread out. I'm not staying anywhere downtown. I mean, it's not too far away. It's like at the ATT Conference Center. And some panels are taking place there. That is farther away than any panel outside of the conference center that I've been to in years past. I mean, there's been spillover, but this is that's quite a
Really
trek. It's
pushing
not
it
even
out,
really
yeah.
walkable unless you've got a half an hour to kill. And it's the more spread out things get, yes, they can accommodate more folks, but this is not the we're all under one roof South by Southwest of years past.
Before we move off of this story, though, I want to get from each of you what you think it is. Like, what is South by Southwest Interactive? Why are people coming? What's the deal? CES, it's about gadgets.
Yeah.
Comic-Con, it's about, sci-fi fantasy comics. Dragon Con the same way. Baratunde, what is South by Southwest Interactive? Why are all these people coming here?
CNN is grilling burgers now.
That would be it, yeah.
It was the
huge.
smell of
They're
burgers.
getting out of the news business, getting into the meat business.
Nerds from around the country
It's-
were drifting on their noses.
No,
It's
I
nothing
think-
like
I think
hearing
more-
James Earl Jones call out your order. It's fantastic.
Number
This is a
173.
cheeseburger.
Exactly. This is BLT. No, I think honestly for me it's been like this. South by has a great intersection of people who actually build things, of people who finance the building of those things, of actual artists and designers and people who care about user experience and not just the building of things, but the experience of those things. You get all that together, and that's kind of a funky mix. It's not just about boxes. It's about the vision around the services that sometimes come through boxes. And it's pretty unique with film and music right alongside it. And Austin's a big part of it. So
Yeah.
I think I stole all your answers right there.
John, do you have any answers?
I
left?
would add that along with all those people, it also adds in the actual users.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you get the experience of you got all the people who are building the stuff, all the people who are funding the stuff, all the people who care about the user experience, and then the actual users there. You've got instant feedback.
Yep.
I mean, that's why we've seen things like Foursquare and Twitter have big presence at previous South Bys. And so, not me. I mean, this is my first one. That's the other reason why this is a big one, is because I'm here.
Yeah, that was another big.
I mean,
Burgers
I
and
came
Strickland.
that's it. But yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's and the fact that here we have this place where we can have informal meetings where we're just chatting.
Like now.
Yeah, kind of like now. Like this was done not planned. It was amazing that the microphones were here. But no, when we have these little informal chats that lead into discussions where people actually start to change their products here. Like they're you know what? That's a feature I never even thought of. That's amazing, and we could totally make that happen. And then you're going back to go to sleep for a good 4 hours maybe, and they're going back to start plugging in more features into what they've already developed for South by.
Yeah, I forget whose tweet I'm totally stealing right now, but somebody just put a simple analogy up that said CES is to gadgets as South by Southwest is to relationships. It is a chance to actually interact in meet space, and for all the letters and emails that you send back and forth and trying to explain why you should check
Back to
out
the
my
burger.
podcast, there's nothing like sharing a beer with someone and realizing that the two of you have a connection and that you both see things the same way. I think there's a tremendous value to interacting one-on-one with real people, but unfortunately, I wonder how long. It's very difficult to monitor that. When we were talking to the folks over at AOL, I asked them, they of course have this tremendously big display. They're displaying all their AOL content. They're doing interviews. They're collecting a bunch of content. They're begging people to tweet out with hashtag. I forget what the AOL hashtag was, but I said, well, are you tracking any of that? They're like, oh no, it's too much going on. And so it's like nobody's really able to track, and it's all these bizarre ways that you interact with each other. You have no idea until months from now you find out, oh, you're the reason I showed up on that recommended list. I'm so glad that you enjoy. I'm so glad that we shared that beer 2 years ago at South by Southwest.
I think you just described the need for a new app.
What's that?
Something that keeps track of all that.
Good luck, bro.
There are 5 of them, actually.
I don't want to be one of those people who says, oh, South by Southwest has jumped the shark, because, again, people said that last year. They're going to say it next year, and we're all still going to be here next year, and it's a lot of fun. That said, Tom and I were having a conversation yesterday when we were having breakfast, and we checked in at the same restaurant and noticed, oh, wow, there's some friends of ours over at 2 tables over, and Foursquare just told us that, and it's like, this is actually where Foursquare is most useful and most fun, because you really want to end up at the same place as somebody, and it doesn't happen necessarily in everyday life in the town that you live in normally, or the city. That said, it seems to have taken a back seat to the Foursquare party that everybody has to go to on Saturday night, where it's like, you're not even really talking about Foursquare, you're just supposed to go because they're having a party and they have money to have a party. So the little guys, you're not going to go to their party because there either isn't one or they can't get you to, they can't lure you in. So that's where I feel like a lot of people come to South by and they talk about all the fun partying and it's so crazy and nobody slept, and yeah, that's fun, but do you leave getting anything out of it? And I don't know if a lot of people are even trying at this point.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I have always made the case for covering South by Southwest that this is where people talk to each other. This is where people interact. A lot of the stuff Brian was saying. It was really hard to make that case because there's no news comes out of South by Southwest, right? Not very much.
Not as much as you would expect.
It's not that kind of
It's
a
not
show.
a product release show.
It's
This isn't
usually like I was, standing around with Jonathan Colton and Scott Simpson, and we were having this great conversation about, what podcasts should be. And I got these great ideas, and I'm going to take them back and try to implement them. It gets harder to do that as the show grows. And
I think that's a really good point. And it's almost, when you think of CES, all the biggest announcements, all the things that you care the most about are the things that happen at the highly centralized gatherings, whereas South by Southwest is so distributed, and it's not only physically, geographically distributed, but also in different social networks, and it's these little things that have big impact in your business relationship for years to come.
All right. The other big thing that happened during South by Southwest, but this might have been marketing genius on Apple's part, was the iPad 2 release, March 11th, 5 p.m. You could go online and order it as well. They had a pop-up store. We talked about that.
By the way, that pop-up store, I wanted that thing to be made of like aluminum foil and umbrellas.
It looked like an Apple store.
It's a
you wanted
store.
it to actually pop up.
It's not a pop-up.
Yeah.
I
That's a
wanted
lie.
to be able to knock it over if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Just take an
It was
Apple
a
and
regular store. It had hardwood
take any
floors.
Apple store and
lights.
take everything but iPads out of it, and you've got the pop-up
Right.
store.
Sarah wanted to see an 18-wheeler roll up and full-on Michael Bay transform into a freaking Apple store.
Right, out
And
of
then like a
paper
Bon Jovi
mache.
concert pops up.
I don't think I was asking that much.
Take that, Steve Jobs.
It actually would have been cooler if they just put an 18-wheeler in the middle of a field and did let you walk through it.
Yeah.
You enter one in, leave short
and
some
you
money.
not even
maze
walk,
on
it's
your
a
way there.
conveyor belt.
Actually, yeah, they pull your wallet out automatically,
Quick poll.
It's kind of what they do
transfer the
anyway.
money. It's just why take the humanity out of it? Let the machines.
So,
finish it.
It was pretty successful, this pop-up store. They had more iPad 2s, which was the only thing that they're selling at the pop-up store. It's not a full Apple store in that regard. More models at this store in Austin. The only store that had more was the Fifth Avenue store in New York.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I'm kind of curious who here,
And by the way, they're sold out now.
who up here actually has one of the iPad 2s now?
I do. Who in the audience
Not
has
me.
one as well?
I'm a holdout.
Freedom!
Good mix. Actually,
Less
I should
than
say that
10%,
I should
close to
say that
10%.
I don't personally own it.
Oh,
my
come
my
on.
wife.
Whoa.
The
Same
iPad
thing.
2.
Okay.
My wife
Now,
has.
many
Is this
of
like
these
Homer
folks may
buying,
have ordered
large
online
bowling
and will have
ball?
to be
Is that what
waiting
that
a
is?
while.
Yeah, no, you're right. Who ordered online and hasn't gotten theirs yet?
Anybody?
Anybody
Suckers?
done
They're
that?
too busy enjoying Austin.
This guy
One
who
or
doesn't.
two.
His buddy's outing him. He doesn't want to raise his hand.
He's
back
like,
there.
I didn't get one.
Because the thing is, the shipping dates keep changing. At first, it was 3 to 4 days. Then it was a couple weeks. Now it's 3 to 4 weeks.
Years, right?
When you're and stores are running out of certain models, it's really hard to
By
find
the time
white
it shows up,
Although
the
it
iPad
sounds
3
like,
comes out.
there was one story saying that AT&T, if you ordered it online through them, that you could get it very fast.
Now, there's also talk about a few issues, as there always is whenever any product comes out, and especially an Apple product, about a light leak and some yellowing. This is similar to the last iPhone had a little yellowing.
Can we pause right there?
Yeah.
A light leak and some yellowing.
Yeah.
We talking about little kids' problem here, or are we talking
think-
about
okay,
a
hold
consumer
on.
electronics device?
Is it Flonase that you take for that? No, that's something else. But you actually have the light leak, right, Brian?
I do not suffer from
I
light
am
leak
suddenly
myself.
not comfortable with this conversation.
I can say that I've witnessed Brian's light leak.
Hold on.
Do you mind
You
showing
actually
us?
touched it,
It
didn't
was
you?
like 2 in the morning.
Yes, and
TMI.
the story is not getting better, Brian.
And I
It's
went
2
to
in the
look at some
morning.
pictures.
Point
and there was
on
some
the
light leak.
iPad where the light leaks.
That's it was right here at the bottom. No, it's and I'll tell you, it was very, very frustrating because I took the iPad home, and in the dark you can't very well see it in the bright lights here. I'll do my best to show it to you. Are we able to zoom in on that at all? You probably can't see it all. I'm going to hold that up.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're
it's
able.
probably going to be really hard to see.
Even there, actually, even in the light, can you zoom in a little bit farther there, Chad? Right,
That's as far as it
about
goes.
there. Well, you can see it there.
It doesn't look like it's there at all.
You know
on
what
the
it looks
video.
like?
taking
It
your
looks
car to the
like
shop.
the water damage remnants I had after I dropped my iPhone in the toilet.
What are you trying? Is it light leaks in toilets? Where's this going?
I'm
What
just
she's saying is
that's-
Apple
that's-
pre-dips
It's a
all
similar
iPad
look.
2s
Anybody,
in the
there
toilet.
are probably people out there who've dropped phones
Here's what was-
into water before, and there's just it's fuzzy
Here
around
was
the edge.
what was so frustrating was when I tried to search on it. I was searching the news. I figured the news, if I was the only one who had the problem, then there's a good picture of it right there. I figured other people would have the same problem as well. well. I was amazed how universally at the early reports, every news outlet really poo-pooed it. They're like, nah, crybabies crying about the same problem last year. And it so isn't. You could tell, obviously, the problem last year was the adhesive on a white background had a little bit of yellow discoloration. This is, I think, a very significant thing that affects my ability to enjoy it, especially in the dark, especially for an Apple product. When you pay the Apple tax and you want everything to be pretty, then damn it, it needs to look pretty. And I don't want to see yellow leaking all over my picture.
You're going to be able to exchange it. You know that, right?
Maybe, probably.
Yeah,
maybe.
Maybe
I'm just holding it wrong.
iPad.
No, I understand it would be hard to enjoy yourself in the dark with a light leak.
Okay, go on.
Finishing on a positive note, though, lots of people have been ripping this thing apart. Of course, iSupply always rips apart the gadgets, and they have found that it's 50% faster at browsing than the previous iPad. I mean, the dual core actually is clocked. The cores are clocked slower than the previous iPad, but the way they are taking advantage of those cores is very well done, and we're seeing some good performance ratings out of it.
And I will definitely vouch, it is a better experience. When I literally side by side, even though technically this is my wife's, is who I bought it for, definitely there's a reason it's up here with me right now. I'm also enjoying the fact that because of the dual cores, they're really playing up the fact that the gap between console level gaming and the iPad is getting tinier and tinier.
Yeah, the graphics chip in this thing is incredible, and that is really impressive.
Especially being somebody who's on the road so much, I don't have time. I love my Xbox 360. I never get a chance to play it because I'm always on the road. I actually spent like $30 or $40 buying a bunch of high-end games. I'm really looking forward to getting into it.
I have to say, I mean, it is so much thinner. I mean, that's true, but it really isn't that much lighter. And one of the issues that I have is. Yeah, I don't. Well, it's not that much lighter.
You guys should fight about it.
But here's why.
It's 0.2 pounds.
This is a great sleight of hand that they pulled. Nobody I know has their iPad Gen 1 outside of a case. So when you hold it, you are always holding it with a full-on case. Not only did they reduce it by 1/4 pound or whatever, but on top of that, by putting a different cover that is significantly lighter, that has no coverage on the back, your subjective experience is that it is much, much lighter, and that's the sleight of hand that PT Jobs is great at.
Yeah, well, I think
that's a wrap.
The greatest show on earth.
Sucker board every minute.
All right, let's finish with the discussion based on some postings from analysts going on. Started on March 10th with Forrester Research analyst Sarah Rotman-Epps, starting a conversation about the Motorola Zoom, HP Touchpad, RIM Playbook, not being as successful as the iPad because they're too expensive and they can't compete with the Apple Store channel. And a lot of the responding posts talked about that and how Apple really has the ecosystem locked down and you can't mimic it in Android because the manufacturer doesn't do the delivery. They're starting to speculate that Amazon could compete with Apple on this because Amazon makes Kindle, so they already make some hardware. Right. If they made a tablet, and even if it ran Android, they could provide the MP3 store, the video store, the book store, and there's a rumor that they're building an app store. Suddenly, they're delivering that whole ecosystem the way Apple does.
Is this report based on any actual information, or is it just a thought piece?
It's just a thought piece. It's just saying, like, wait a minute, we just noticed all this stuff, and Amazon's doing an app store. I bet that they would come out with a tablet. It would make sense.
What you're saying is that if Amazon has all these things, so therefore it would make sense for it to be able to... It's easy to imagine they get into the tablet market. Sort of similar to, it's easy to imagine that if a frog had wings, it would not bump its butt every time it hopped.
Well, I think it's a little stronger than that because they changed the way video works, right? They're giving the free streaming, the free online demand to anybody who does Amazon Prime. Yep. They're also giving. There's also developing an app store. So there's a lot of signs. Yeah. It would be like if the frog had some bumps coming out of its back. It's like I think those are wings.
Okay.
I think it's growing wings.
I think what part of what this speaks to is all of ours, maybe not every single person, but there's a strong demand for an alternative. Right? You see this great experience, but you also see shortcomings. And you know the group providing that great experience doesn't have a huge incentive to fill the gaps you want filled. You want an alternate system to collect funds. You want a new way to do subscriptions if you're a publisher. And Apple's just not going to, until they're forced, which is rare, they're not going to do it. They're going to do what they believe in. So people want this, and I think this thought piece kind of reflects a desire, maybe even a need in the market for just another strong player who has all those pieces together. It's like, put the pieces together, form Voltron, let's get it on.
I think it would be a really bad idea for them to do a hardware thing because, first of all, what made the Kindle a success is the fact that it is a rejection of everything that's happening with the iPad. It's a rejection of everything you see with the Android tablets. The Kindle does one thing, and it does one thing exceptionally well, which is read books light and cheaply. I think they should continue to do that. Now, if they want to take advantage of the fantastic positioning they have, what they need to do is transform the way people perceive the Android App Store. Right now, with Apple, you're going to an App Store. It is the Apple App Store. Android, if you think of it as a mall, you have a bunch of different stores, each of them selling their own wares. Amazon should open up its own channel inside the Android mall where it can build up a very, it could become the de facto best place in all of the
way
Android
they did
mall.
Kindle, where they said we sell a Kindle, but we want you to read Kindle everywhere.
Exactly.
You're saying the same thing with their marketplace.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting thought. All right, we got to move along so we can make room on the stage for This Week in Tech, but let's get to the news, Fuse. Egyptian blogger Hassam Arabawi came into possession of a CD from a raid on an Egyptian security agency. The CD had images on it, and he's been uploading a set of Secret Service officer pics to Flickr for the past week. Arabawi posted on his own blog that Flickr had removed the photos, citing copyright infringement. Flickr says their guidelines prevent users from posting pictures that are not their own work. At least one Flickr community member, major community member, thinks this is disingenuous since lots of people post things on Flickr that are not their own work and don't get in trouble.
Flickr, why do you have to go changing on us? Well, it's not as important as the human cost, not by a long shot. Japan's tech industry is taking a hit after the earthquake. The supply of flash memory chips will likely be affected by the earthquake, according to a report by Objective Analysis, which is a firm that does semiconductor-related market research. Over 40% of the world's NAND flash and roughly 50% of the world's DRAM are manufactured in Japan. This could slow down delivery of many of those products.
An Engadget reader spotted an image at the Hulu website showing an image of a Samsung Nexus S, which, by the way, comes with Android 2.3, and the words "Select Android 2.2 devices coming soon with Hulu." Hulu is most likely waiting for implementation of DRM on the Android platform, same thing that delayed the Netflix and the Netflix app on Android. But this ends up being true. Could Google TV be far behind?
Awesomeness. More places to watch more stuff that you should.
Twitter, like Lindsay Lohan, but without the scram bracelet, has a probation officer. The Federal Trade Commission has accepted a settlement with Twitter over its 2009 security breaches. The FTC said that Twitter had serious lapses in the company's data security, and as a result, Twitter must now implement and maintain a comprehensive information security program that will be independently evaluated every other year for 10 years. Twitter is also barred from misleading consumers about its security practices for 20 years.
I'm sorry, this is 2009. What was this story? I don't even remember this.
Yeah. There was the hacks. A couple of hacks happened on Twitter, and the FTC came in and said, "You got to shut things down. This is bad."
Yeah, someone at Twitter set their password as password, and
then in 21 years they get to.
But here's what I don't understand: is this only applied to Twitter, or is this every technology company?
No, this is just a Twitter case.
It's just Twitter.
Yeah.
But in 20 years they can go back to lying.
Apparently,
is that what it means?
I don't know.
I didn't even know that was permissible
it's a
to start with.
probation.
We'll see if the FTC is around.
They get in more trouble if they.
They get in more
Secret
trouble.
probation.
Gotcha.
Netflix is getting closer and closer to passing HBO in subscribers. No wonder Time Warner is so pissy about Netflix. According to SNL Kagan, HBO dropped 75,000 subscribers in the fourth quarter, bringing them down to 28.2 million. Meanwhile, Netflix gained 7.7 million subscribers in the fourth quarter, shooting past the 20 million mark and leaving Showtime and Starz in the dust.
This is, this is a frame rate story right here.
Yeah, it is.
I could not be happier for this. For all of the dirty, gritty details that are going to have to be worked out with the new media and the instant on-demand, the experience of Netflix is still the best way to consume the vast majority of just about anything you're going to watch right now.
What he said.
Agreed.
Like so many phones before it, the Samsung Galaxy S2, aka the GTI 9100, hit the FCC for authorization and revealed some juicy tidbits about itself. It supports 850 megahertz and 1900 megahertz GSM frequencies, making it most likely to be an AT&T phone and possibly have a Canadian version. It also shows 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz frequencies, meaning it'll almost certainly come with a dual band 802.11 A, B, G, and N Wi-Fi. Woo!
All right, and then real quickly before we get to the calendar, I want to let people know that there are some good resource lists out there if you're wanting to do something to help the folks in Japan
And we all do.
with the earthquake recovery. First of all, Apple is now taking Red Cross donations through iTunes for the Japan Relief Fund, just using their store to pass along the money. They don't take a cut or anything like that. And then paid content, we'll have this link in our show notes on the TNT Wiki, has a bunch of resources for sending text messages to donate. In the U.S., you text Japan or Tsunami, Tsunami, to 20222, and it will donate $10 to the Save the Children Federation, helping out with kids in Japan. You can also text 4 Japan, the number 4, and then the word Japan to 2022, and it'll donate $10 to World Vision Inc. There's several other ways you can donate text by text messages in the U.S. and Canada. And like I said, go to paid content or look for it in our show notes. All right, to the calendar.
Woo! There's no show tomorrow, no TNT. We're going to be on a plane, but that's not why we're not doing a show. We're not doing a show because we are observing International Pie Day. That's
Right.
not like apple pie. That's like 3.14 Pie Day.
Because it's 3/14.
However, it's appropriate to eat pie.
It is appropriate to
on
celebrate
Pie Day.
National Pie Day by eating a piece of pie.
And then the
Very
day
healthy.
after International Pie Day, you should eat more pie.
Yeah.
Because
Sweet
pie
or
is
savory.
good. Yeah. Mince, pecan, it's all good.
Pizza pie?
Go. Yeah.
Pizza pie.
Oh,
my life is so much
pie.
better. We're going to eat so much pizza. The official launch for users of Internet Explorer 9 is tomorrow. That's Monday, March 14th at 9 p.m. Pacific time. They already had an event to launch here at South by Southwest, but that's the official. HP is holding a press event March 14th. Not the touchpad.
No, I don't think so.
I mean,
nobody seems to really care.
Anybody
much.
else want to speculate on what this whole
Another printer.
event is about?
Pizza pies.
Oh, I love those.
The
Those
latest
are so
Model
good.
A printer you can
RJ3002.
fax things to get them printed.
Yeah.
You just
Instead of
talk
email.
to it and you print your stuff. The Samsung Galaxy Tabs Wi-Fi only version is rumored to be costing $399. It's going to arrive on April 4th. That's the unsubsidized version.
Seems a little expensive, but it's unsubsidized. Yeah.
And Google has shipped its last CR48 laptop for now.
And not to me.
Not to me either.
No, not to me
I
either.
got one.
Chrome OS devices are still on track for the summer. So don't fret.
Let's finish up with a couple emails to TNT@twit.tv. Our first one here comes from John O. He is with OMF International in Japan. We have a lot of listeners in Japan, and so several of them have been emailing to let us know what's going on for them. He says, been listening to TNT in Hokkaido, Japan. Social and new media has been playing a big part in the events of the past few days here. Twitter and social networks like Mixi, M-I-X-I, and Facebook are helping people contact family and friends while phones and other pathways are out of order. Skype has proved useful. Some TV stations have even been taking their streams online since the transmitters were damaged. And all of the old media and new media are coming together to find the best way to deliver necessary information. So instead of beating each other up, because of this, they're like, let's just figure out where the signal is best and use that. Personally, Facebook and Twitter have been great, he says, for letting family and friends in the UK know I am safe and sound without getting 1,001 different emails to reply to, and to confirm members of our organization are safe and relay that information at home.
One of our viewers in Silverdale, Washington, also has got to give it up for Skype. Says, I was chatting with my mom on Skype when the earthquake hit in Japan. My mom was able to send in a few messages to me saying they were having an earthquake, then we were disconnected. I had no way of knowing if she was alive or dead. She was able to call me on her cell phone 30 minutes later to tell me she was okay. That was the last time I talked to her for almost a day because service was down, cell phone service was spotty, power wasn't restored for another 12 hours. I was able to message her on Facebook, put a message on her Facebook page telling everyone else who might have been worried that she was okay, and then later on was able to video chat with my parents on Skype to get updates from them because cell phones were still unreliable. Anyway, long story short, if I had not been chatting with her that night on Skype, I would have woken up Friday morning, had found out about the earthquake, and I wouldn't have been able to get a hold of her. Skype alleviated a lot of my fears and concerns, and it didn't even cost me a dime. Thank you, Skype. So, technology really comes in handy in times like
Very
this.
cool. And thanks to all the folks in the audience out in Japan who took the time to email us and let us know how things are going. We know you have plenty of things to do. We're glad to hear that you all are doing
Absolutely.
safe. Brian Brushwood, thanks so much for being on the show again and being here at South by Southwest.
Of course, dude. It's in my backyard, literally.
What's next on the agenda for you?
Well, I believe I'm
that
hanging
folks can
around
follow.
for This Week in Tech. Later on, we're going to hit up all the parties. We're hoping that we could get one of the live units over to our friends at the URDB, the Universal Records Database, doing a big event over at the Highball here in Austin. And, of course, you can see us on Frame Rate and NSFW on Tuesdays.
Excellent. John Strickland, tell folks about tech stuff and what's going on there.
Yeah, we've got it's over at howstuffworks.com. We've got a ton of podcasts. You may have heard of some of them. Stuff you should know, stuff Mom never told you. I'm a co-host on Tech Stuff. And we're coming up on our 300th episode pretty soon, which is pretty cool. Thank you very much. So we're currently accepting listener submissions for topic ideas for our 300th episode.
Cool. All right. Well, and so they just go to the howstuffworks.com?
Howstuffworks.com, and we have all the links there. We actually have a new forums site as well. It's really cool. If you haven't been to the site in a while, I really recommend you go check it out.
Thanks, man. And thanks for being on the show.
Love
great
it.
to have
Love
you.
it.
Baratunde, good to have you on the show. We got to get you on the show
here.
sometime when it's not South by Southwest.
I agree. Let's
do that. Figure that out. Let folks know what you're up to, where they can find
First
you.
of all, your 300th episode should be about how the light leak works.
That's right.
I can totally do that. I've had a lot of research over at Shea Brushwood.
In terms of Onion stuff, we have our TV show Tuesday night, Onion Sports Dome, 8 p.m. Eastern. Friday night, Onion News Network on IFC, 10 p.m. Eastern. And follow me, I guess, at Baratunde for my personal comedic political ramblings. I'll be in Austin all week. Right, once the party,
You'll be here all the week?
I'm leaving Saturday morning. I want to really take in Texas barbecue and life and love.
Oh, yeah. Get meat drunk.
I didn't say that.
Hey, and thanks to everybody here. My favorite guest, the audience. Give yourselves a big hand. Even the folks way back there, I hope you could hear. Thanks. Thanks for coming out.
They
Thanks,
can hear
everybody,
ya.
for being at South by Southwest. Once again, thanks to LiveView. Thanks to FreshBooks. Thanks to Momo's for hosting us. They've been fantastic. Buy
Love
some
it.
drinks. Tip your bartender. And have a good time. Thanks to New Tech for the TriCaster, actually. Yeah, we're trying out the newest TriCaster. Jason's